Here's my problem with you, Jackie, because I do have a problem with you. I'm afraid. I'm sorry to reveal it. You use us the way you're supposed to be using Google. You come up with an argument that is phrased that you like from Jordan Peterson or somebody of equal ridiculous sophistry, and then you bring it to us. And it seems to be that if you bring it to somebody and it's novel enough that they don't know what the fuck you're talking about because it is disguised in this flowery language. Don't finish. Please don't interrupt. Please don't interrupt. Sorry, wait, Jackie, are you telling me you're not the Jackie I'm thinking of?
I'm Jackie from Mississippi. I'm a Thea from Mississippi.
Yeah. Okay, then, yes. Okay, stop for a moment and let me finish, and then I'll give you a chance to respond. And what you end up doing is you go and you do your Googling, you find the one you want, and you go, okay, I have argument A, and I don't know whether argument A is good or not, so I'm going to go test it on the line. When what you should be doing, Jackie, is going, if I can Google argument A, I can Google the refutation of argument A. And I should call in once I've gone argument, refutation, refutation of the refutation, refutation of the refutation of the refutation. And I can wait until I have a solid spot where I go, okay, I have now read so much of the for and the opposing that I could make either side of the argument myself, but I think this side is the correct side. And that's when you should call in, because I've reviewed your calls. And the thing that's really frustrating, Jackie, is you get multiple types of calls, but you can even get in a call with, like, for example, Dr. Aaron Adair, who owned you back and forth all the way to London town. And then last time you called me, you tried to pull the philosophy boy bullshit of, well, it depends what true means. And you say things like, I reject the idea that time is linear when asked about the nature of history and reality. You say these sort of bullshit concepts, and you're sort of a bullshit artist. So as we go into this conversation, I'm almost done. As we go into this conversation, understand that that's already who I think you are. That's already the tactics that I think you use. And if we are going to, after this call, continue to take your calls, it will be because you're at least doing us the solid, Jackie, of going and finding us other religious callers to call in and debate rather than have the same goddamn type of conversation with you. How many times have you called in now? 30 or 40? And seemingly, even though you've been corrected many times.
Probably 10 times.
Okay, let's say it's 10. I might have been being hyperbolic, but let's say it's 10. And seemingly, rather than you going, ooh, I was wrong on that, and here's how I've improved, you've gone, ooh, I was wrong with that. So I let go of that one, went and Googled and found a new one for you, rather than actually reflect on it. So now, Jackie, unless Paul has something he wants to add, I'm not sure if he's done this with you already or is familiar. Now, Jackie,
I'm new to Jackie.
You can respond.
Just to clarify, because you did misrepresent my view, I don't believe linear time is not real. I was arguing against the Hegelian notion of a dialectic understanding of time, but I do believe in linear time. Now, if you want the case I'm going to make today, and I've made different arguments over the course of my calling into the line, I'm basically going to be arguing the Neoplatonist doctrine that is put forward by Plotinus makes most sense in line with the God of classical theism. So are you familiar with Plotinus?
And is this the basis upon which you believe in God, this argument, or is it just an argument you like?
An argument.
So this is not the reason, this is not an argument that you actually anchor your belief in God on, correct?
It's not essential.
Great, get rid of it and do one that is. I don't care about, here's one I want to, here's the thing. If it is not one that your actual belief is,
it is
Jackie,
part of my belief.
Well, the one that hinges
you just
on.
said it's non-essential. It does not anchor on it. It's just one that you like. Go with the one it anchors to. One of many. Go with your anchored belief. I'm not doing, actually, before we do that, Jackie, hey, if I say to you, is it true? What am I asking?
You're asking me, is it true? And there are different definitions philosophers have used.
No. If I, in a conversation with a person, all right, so if you make a claim and I say, but is that claim true? What am I asking you? Don't just say you're asking, is it true? Ask what I mean.
I don't know what your metaphysical or epistemological system is, so I don't know.
See, Jackie, this is why talking to you is nonsense. Because clearly, in a non-formal conversation where we're calling in and we're having a chat, we're going to be operating in the world of the colloquial. And if I say, "Is it true?" like when I hung up on you last time you called in, and instead of answering, just went, "Depends on what true means." I am asking whether or not the belief you are professing comports with reality, if you need to dress it up with language. So now that we know that, give us an argument that your belief actually is contingent upon, is actually anchored to.
The argument I came in with is basically Plotinus, who was a Neoplatonician.
What did I just tell you? Who muted him? I didn't mute Jackie.
I didn't.
Nope, not on this end.
Literally, all our hands were off the. Jackie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, well, your audio cut out. Now, before you start again, recall that we already said we're not going with your hobby arguments. We're not going with the argument of, "Oh, I like this one." You're going to present an argument for why you believe in a God that your belief actually anchors to. Otherwise, we can do it a different way and get a bit Socratic, since you like the philosophy boy
I
speak.
think there are multiple reasons I believe in God. You're asking
Which God do you believe in?
The God of the Abrahamic religions, particularly the non-Islamic ones.
The non-Islamic God of the Abrahamic religions. So to be clear, you are saying that you believe in the Jewish and Christian God, correct?
Yes, although I'm Unitarian.
Okay. And so while they claim a similar origin, first of all, I would take issue with you are claiming that they are the same God, because if you believe in the messianic prophecy as being fulfilled, the God the Jews believe in did not fulfill that prophecy while the Christians did. This is sort of like when people use that bullshit, "We were founded on Judeo-Christian values," which is not a concept that actually exists, and it's a way of trying to include the Jews, try and act like we've not been a historically anti-Semitic sack of crap, when in reality there isn't a Judeo element to these values that they're advocating for. So it seems to me what you actually mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, you believe in the non-Islamic and non-Jewish God, except for that you do believe that the God of the Old Testament, of the old Jews, did evolve into the Christian God, but the current God that the Jews are worshiping, which is a God that did not fulfill any messianic prophecies, you do not believe in, correct?
I really don't care about the specifics here.
You could just answer correct. You could just actually participate. Okay, great. So tell me, incorrect. You do believe in the current day Jewish God, which has not fulfilled messianic prophecies.
I'm not convinced Jesus is the Messiah ben David.
Great. So then you do believe in the Christian God too, as well, right?
No, but I feel Christians worship the same God I do.
You understand that the argument we just did, if you just flip it,
but anyway,
it's
none
the
of this
same
is
thing in
relevant to my
reverse.
argument.
Jackie, I've thrown out your argument. I don't care about the argument. I'm getting to the core of which God you believe in and why you believe in it, instead of this silly, here's a little pet project. I Googled it this week, and as I didn't bother to Google any refutations of it or engage in the place that this would actually be interesting, I called into a conversational show to try and show off to the audience all of the philosophy words I spoke this week, to see if I can trip the people up on the air and see if they actually can force themselves to give a fuck, when in reality these philosophy boy conversations are essentially exercises in sniffing one's own farts and hoping that those farts can gain enough mass to liquefy into a wine glass so we can pump them down our gullet. That's what I think of your conversations, Jackie. So if you want to continue with your philosophy boy version of it, the r/I am so smart, call in a different day and do it with somebody who gives a fuck. But if you want to stay on the phone with me, you're going to go through my line of questioning again, unless Paul goes, okay, no, I really want to talk to a Jordan Peterson sophist baby. Go on.
I believe in the God that Noahides and Orthodox Jews believe in. If you don't know who Noahides are, you can look it up.
Great. Thank you for the permission to look it up. And the expression that actually what you just said I was going to do, Jimmy, which is try to come up with words or concepts that I'm hoping are gaps in your knowledge and then intellectually
that's not what I'm
condescend to you.
doing.
It's
I'm
like,
telling you what
it's
I
like
believe
it,
in.
how long did it take you? 9 seconds? Well
I'm
done.
telling you what
Well
I
done,
believe.
Jackie. Great. You believe in the Orthodox Jewish God.
Yes.
You do not believe that Jesus Christ was resurrected.
Nope.
Great. You love Jordan Peterson. Go on.
I think
Why do you
he has some intelligent points. I think I disagree with him on some things.
do you believe that the story of Moses and the Exodus is a literal story and an account from the actual history of our world? That it is true and that it comports with reality, and that if we rewound the days, we would rewind back far enough, we would meet Moses and his merry band of ocean walking Jews.
I believe the Exodus was a historical event.
You do believe the Exodus was a historical event. Great. Do you believe that the global flood happened?
No.
Hey, that's sweet. Where do you believe the story of Noah comes from?
I believe the book of Genesis contains a lot of metaphor and allegory and metatruths that are not necessarily literally true in the sort of fundamental, well, not even fundamentalist, the literalist sense. But I do believe.
Do you believe that God inspired the writer of Genesis to write the global flood story, or do you believe that it was adopted from a different religious tradition and adapted for the Jews?
I believe the entire Torah, both written and oral Torah, were given to Moses at Mount Sinai, and I believe it represents either metaphorical truth or literal truth, depending on which book of the Torah.
Which books are metaphor?
Not all of it, but a large amount of the book of Genesis I consider to be metaphorical, or at least not plain face reading.
And how do you know when it is metaphorical versus when it is literal?
I go by what Orthodox Jewish theologians, how Orthodox Jewish theologians throughout history have interpreted the Tanakh.
Got it. You let other people determine it, is what you're saying. And how do they determine it?
Well, most of them would go to sources in the Talmud or Kabbalah, depending on their strain of Orthodox Judaism. And some of them create their own interpretations.
Right. So how you've just said they're looking at other documents, and do those documents designate these verses were metaphorical versus these verses were literal?
Yeah, there are some discussions like that in the Talmud.
In the Talmud says, for example, that the 6-day creation, or we'll just say Noah's flood, was metaphorical.
No, but the Talmud does offer some interpretations.
So the Talmud doesn't. Where do you get that Noah's flood was a metaphor, if not the Talmud?
I've heard some Orthodox Jewish people I know who say that is an acceptable belief.
So to be clear, your belief that it is metaphorical is essentially just a choice of this is the one that makes the most sense to me, correct?
Something to that effect.
Not evidentiary. So if a scholar, for example, were to tell you the story was not written as metaphor, your rebuttal would be not that you have evidence it was, but that you feel it was.
Yeah. It's a case-by-case basis. We have to talk about a specific example of an event in the Bible that's described, how Orthodox Jewish theologians respond to that. You know, I'm not.
I love it when people answer
questions.
questions I didn't answer. They're like, you know what Jimmy wants is the question he wished he had answered. And then they go ahead and guess at what that question is. But we'll just go ahead and move on. Do you believe Adam and Eve literally existed?
I believe the first two human beings who God referred to as Adam and Eve existed.
How long ago?
I don't know.
Great. Why do you, upon what basis do you reject evolution?
I don't reject evolution.
Yes, you do. You just did. You said that you believe there were two original human beings. And that's not how evolution works. And if you were to understand evolution, you would know that that's not how it works. So there definitely was not two original human beings. Even if you want to go with concepts like mitochondrial Eve, she wasn't married to mitochondrial Adam. So I ask again, if you believe Adam and Eve were the original human beings and that there was two original human beings before any other human beings, why do you reject the theory of evolution?
Well, I believe Adam and Eve were the first human beings, but I don't believe evolution, in a broader sense of like animals and humans adapt to their environment over time, is false. And I don't believe in a young Earth. I believe there was some point in designated time that God created two human beings and designated them Adam and Eve. What aspects of the creation story are literal versus figurative is not up for me to decide.
Yeah, well, you just said moments ago it was up for you to decide when you talked about Noah's flood, that you get to, there is some level of these are the acceptable things you're allowed to, as other people have told you. But in this case, you have gone astray of that very thing. So I'm going to return to the Adam and Eve thing, because you said you believe God put two. Not only do we know that all Homo sapiens do not descend from two Homo sapiens, I guess I should ask you this. Do you believe Adam and Eve were of the species Homo sapien?
Yes.
What species do you believe their parents were?
I believe those were the first two human beings.
So once again, you do reject the theory of evolution, which posits and has proven, and as much as science can prove anything, it's an imperfect word. We're going to go with the colloquial, but it is an absolute fact that Homo sapiens are all descendants of multiple mitochondrial Eves. And before Homo sapiens, all humans, all Homo sapiens descend from the same mitochondrial Eve, actually a few of them, Homo erectus. Do you reject that all humans come from Homo erectus?
It's not a scientific or theological question that I've researched enough
Yes,
into
it is.
to not enough to form a conclusive opinion without further looking into the arguments on the subject. But I accept evolution is real, and I accept it.
No, you
Earth,
don't.
so.
No, sir. No, you do not. If you believe all Homo sapiens descended from Adam and Eve, and that Adam and Eve had no parents, and that we don't all descend, therefore, from Homo erectus, you do not accept that evolution is true. But we can move on to other ones. Actually, Paul, do you have questions? I feel I am...
Well, maybe here's the way I would respond. It could be that Adam and Eve are the first two human beings, but not the first two humans, Homo sapiens. So it's potentially possible that they're Homo sapiens of the taxonomical species in a secular sense. They were Homo sapiens before, but because God didn't blow a soul into them, they weren't human beings in a metaphysical sense.
So to you, the definition of a human being is a Homo sapien with a soul.
Yes.
So you're positing that perhaps the alternative is that, in fact, which you already said a contradictory thing to this, Adam and Eve did have parents, and that those parents were Homo sapiens who were not extended the grace of God, despite the fact that if they are Homo sapiens, they would have also been born in the image of God. They would have been made in the image of God, and would have had understanding, would have had emotions, would have had, because there's no point in history that Homo sapiens did not have our advanced level of brains, right? Our brains are evolving, but not to that level. And in fact, species prior to them, there are signs of had higher levels of intelligence and did things that were ritual, and one might even argue religious in appearance. So how are you going to reconcile all that together there, buddy, since it already contradicts something you said earlier?
You're asking me a lot of loaded, very specific questions that you're expecting.
I know.
A direct...
It's so annoying when a person I'm trying to have a conversation on the phone with doesn't allow me to go down the silly routes and forces me to show the inconsistencies in my understanding of something, rather than let me go down some pre-scripted sort of argument that I want to have, that I think because of the novelty of the argument and their ignorance of it, it will make them look dumb, even if it's really just a matter of they haven't thought about it before. Jackie, wouldn't that just frustrate the hell out of you?
You're assuming a lot about my intention here. I'm here to
I know I am. But would that frustrate you, Jackie?
It does frustrate me that you derailed what my intention was.
I know. I already told you earlier I wasn't going to do that one, that you could call in another time if you were insisting that that was the only thing you were going to talk on. Jackie, what I've done here is purposeful. You have called in many times and insisted essentially on control of the conversation and tried
I have a
this
specific topic I want to talk about.
Jordan Peterson-esque tactic. And what I have done is shown that when you actually strip you down to the basics, talk one-to-one, human to human, on very basic things, the amount of hypocrisy, self-contradiction, and nonsensical arguments present in your belief are vast. But now, Jackie, I will see if Paul wants to have a bit go back and forth with you. But otherwise, I'm good and ready to move on. And Jackie, from your own complaints, it sounds like you aren't interested in chatting with me anymore anyway. So let's see if Paul's interested.
I was recently told that I have no business talking about philosophy. So, Neoplatonism sounds like something that Christians tell me I have no business talking about. So we can probably
You
move
can
on.
talk about it.
Jackie said you can.
No, I'm good. I was going to, correct that it wasn't mitochondrial atom, that it was, chromosomal atom, but that's fine.
That's
There's
true.
no male DNA in the mitochondria, but that's
true.
the extent of my science knowledge. So
very good.
All right. Thanks, Jackie.
Jackie,
Well,
the original host of this did offer a little bit of advice. Yes, you can. You can have the parting words in a moment. The original host of this episode has a bit of parting advice himself, and I'd like to pass that on to you. Next time you have a specific topic you want to talk on the phone about, start your own show.
If you want the reason, first of all, when it comes to biblical stuff, I believe part of it is literal and metaphorical, and which parts are not up for me to discern. You're asking me, you're conflating scientific and religious truth as if they're the same thing, and it's hard for me to answer.
Just reveal the places where you had an opinion based on your religion on a scientific truth that is in conflict with reality. So if on the basis of your religion, you say something defiant of science, oh yeah, Jackie, I'm going to bring that shit to the surface, because after this call, you're not going to go away like previous calls and be like, well, the fact that they weren't ready for this thing that I put in hours of prep for and they didn't means I must be right or getting closer to right. And instead, you're walking away clearly with hat in hand, if you're being remotely honest, and going, holy shit, I don't even know what the fuck I believe, because it turns out I say contradictory things. You have 15 seconds for a wrap up, Jackie. Wherever you are at the end of that 15 seconds, the phone call will end.
First of all, I don't really get most of my philosophy from Jordan Peterson. So what philosophers do you think I should look into? Like Martin Heidegger, or
9,
who do you think that?
10, 11, 12,
That's a question.
13, 14, 15. Goodbye.
If you want...
I bet he hated that call.
I'm sure
I bet he fucking hated it. Hated it.
I love where he got to the point, completely non-self-aware. It's like, no, I haven't looked into that. That's why I don't have an opinion. It was like,
really?
What?
Oh my God. Truly, there's nothing more fun than exposing a person to themselves and what it's like to talk to themselves and then be like, well, I didn't like any of that. I mean, sorry. Then again, would I like hanging out with myself? Who fucking knows?